So we hear every single day that kids who become transgender transition because they're reverting to what they really are. They were, quote, born that way. But the numbers don't support that conclusion at all. A new report from UCLA, which analyzed CDC surveys, shows that the number of young people who identified as transgender doubled in the past several years. Now, what's interesting is that blue states, liberal states, on average, had far more children identifying as transgender. For example, 3% of young people in New York called themselves trans. That compares to 0.6% in Wyoming. So what is causing this? Well, one of the only reasons we're having this conversation in the first place is because a woman called Abigail Shrier was brave enough to raise this issue and write an amazing book called Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze. We've had her on many times. We're always honored to have her back. Abigail, great to see you. So
great to see you, Tucker.
These numbers are kind of astounding, but they don't suggest a natural cause, a born that way cause. They suggest a social influence cause, to me anyway.
Absolutely. If this were organic, we would expect to see it evenly distributed across the population. We would see it without respect to viewpoint or politics of the locality. And we would see women in their 60s and 70s suddenly discovering and admitting their transgender status, right? You would see women in their 70s saying, now that the stigma is gone, I can announce I'm transgender. We're not seeing that at all. We're seeing that among the same population that falls for every social contagion and is subjected to the most pure influence, that's teenage girls. And this week, even the New York Times had to acknowledge it.
So your perspective on this makes you particularly dangerous to people pushing this because they can't kind of dismiss you as a hater. You're clearly motivated by your concern for the young people who are being caught up in this. What's the response when you reasonably and rationally lay this out to people on the other side?
Well, obviously I've gotten quite a bit of hate, but, it does nobody any, help to lie about this. And the media has participated in nonstop whitewashing of this issue as if all that happens to children is that as long as they have good parents who love them, you just sprinkle magic pixie dust and they go from girl to boy. In fact, what you're setting them up for is a lifetime of infertility, sexual dysfunction, and surgery after surgery, many of which fail. And the last thing I'm going to do is lie to the American public about that.
Amen. So we just did a documentary on this, as you know, because you are part of it. It's called Transgressive. And in the episode that we're putting together right now, we spoke to someone who went through the process of transition as a child and then decided to detransition. Her name is Helena Kirshner. It's a pretty amazing story. Here's part of our interview with her.
I decided to call myself a demi-girl, which is one of the 40 million genders. And that basically means that I'm mostly a girl, but I'm a little bit not a girl, which is just like, what does that even mean? And then after that, I went to demi-boy. And then after that, I went to gender fluid. And after that, I eventually went to trans boy. But all of this took like 2 or 3 years of just going through this repetitive cycle of changing this identity and changing it again. And it was just never enough. There was a lot of hopelessness for a long time, a lot of regret. The feeling of regret was intense.
Amazing story. So, Abigail, you've interviewed an awful lot of kids who've gotten caught up in this and then tried to leave it. Does that bear resemblance to kids you've spoken to?
Absolutely. I was able to profile Helena for my book. And, one of the stories that haunted me most that she told is how easily she was able to obtain testosterone on a first visit to a clinic. And this is a young woman, she's a brilliant young woman, and she's written now in granular detail about how no adult who held themselves out as an expert put up any safeguards. They just rushed her through this transition, which she now regrets. And the number of young people who regret their medical transitions is exploding in this country. When I first wrote my book, there were 7,000 members of the online group, the subreddit, devoted to detransitioners, people who regretted their transition and went back. That number is now up 400% from when I wrote my book. So young people are coming out, they're regretting this, and they were given no safeguards by the adults who were supposed to know better.
And someone should let them speak. They've been suppressed. That documentary comes out, by the way, next month in July, and we're proud to do it, and Abigail plays a big role in it. Abigail, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our leaders are obviously using January 6th to crack down on their political opponents. The FBI just arrested a Republican candidate for governor in Michigan, apparently the lead Republican in that race, a man called Ryan Kelly, because he was at the Capitol on January 6th. What a coincidence. Ryan Kelly joins us for an exclusive interview next.